Halloween is supposed to be a night of costumes, candy, and fun, but sometimes it turns into something much darker. Over the years, there have been real incidents that shocked entire neighborhoods, left authorities baffled, and turned what should have been a harmless celebration into something unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Tonight, we're diving into 10 real and disturbing things that happened on Halloween night. These aren't legends or myths. These are real cases. Picture this. You're walking down the street on Halloween night and you see what looks like a hanging decoration on someone's front porch. It fits right in with all the other spooky decor, except this one isn't fake. That's exactly what happened in the small town of Frederica, Delaware. On the morning after Halloween in 2005, neighbors spotted what they thought was a Halloween prop dangling from a tree outside a home. For hours, people walked past it without realizing the horrifying truth. It wasn't a decoration, it was a real person who had lost their life the night before. Authorities were eventually called after someone finally got close enough to notice something was wrong. It was discovered that the incident had taken place late on Halloween night, and due to the position and appearance, people truly believed it was just part of the decorations. It took almost 12 hours before anyone realized that it was real. The case shocked the entire community and led to a wave of reports about people mistaking real emergencies for Halloween displays. 3 friends were celebrating Halloween night in Napa, California in 2004. Everything was normal, there were costumes, there was candy, there was laughter, but by the next morning, one of them was gone. In the early hours after Halloween, a quiet neighborhood was rocked by an attack inside a house shared by the 3 women. One woman managed to escape unharmed, another was left with serious injuries, and one tragically did not survive. At first, investigators had a few leads, but the way the crime was carried out was so specific and targeted that it just didn't feel random. For nearly a year, the case haunted the community. Then suddenly, a major break came. A man who had once been a close friend of one of the roommates was identified as the suspect. Investigators determined he had entered the house through an unlocked door on Halloween night. Literally the worst night to keep your doors unlocked. If you've ever heard warnings about checking your Halloween candy, this is where that fear comes from. On Halloween night in 1974, a family in Deer Park, Texas returned home after trick-or-treating. Later that night, one of the trick-or-treaters became seriously ill. At first, people thought it was an accident, but when investigators examined the candy, they found that it had been laced with a lethal substance. The case spread nationwide. Parents everywhere panicked. Urban legends about poisoned Halloween candy had been around for years, but this was the first time it was confirmed to have actually happened. Authorities launched an intensive investigation and uncovered that the tainted candy had come from inside the house. Literally, the call was coming from inside the house. The case quickly became one of the most infamous true crime stories tied to Halloween and fundamentally changed how people viewed trick-or-treating. From then on, parents started inspecting candy carefully, hospitals offered free candy checks, and news stations aired warnings every year. This single Halloween night reshaped an entire holiday tradition. Halloween 2001 started like a normal night for Jong, a college student at Pennsylvania State University. She dressed up as a bunny and went out to a party with friends. After a long night of celebrations, she returned home, and that was the last time that anyone saw her. Her belongings were found in her apartment. Her purse, her cell phone, and her keys were inside. It didn't look like she planned to go anywhere, but when she failed to show up for classes or answer calls, her friends reported her missing. A massive search began, and the only lead came from a reported sighting of someone matching her description in another town a few days later, but nothing concrete ever came of it. Her disappearance has remained unsolved for more than 2 decades. The case gained national attention because it happened on Halloween night, when it's easy to blend into a crowd. She was surrounded by people in costumes, and the night was so busy that investigators had little to work with. To this day, no one knows what really happened. A masked person at a Halloween party is nothing strange. In fact, it's expected. But in 1975 in Greenwich, Connecticut, that made things far more chilling. On Halloween night, Martha Moxley attended a neighborhood party. Everyone in the area knew each other and kids moved freely between houses. At some point that night, she was last seen socializing near the home of a well-known local family. But by the next morning, her disappearance became clear. A search led to the discovery of her outside her own house. The case drew national attention because of who was involved. A member of a prominent family became the prime suspect years later. After decades of court battles, appeals, and media coverage, the case was one of the most famous Halloween-related incidents in U.S. history. In 1982, a group of friends gathered in Los Angeles for a big Halloween party. People were dressed in everything from superheroes to skeletons, but one costume really stood out. It was a simple, all-black outfit with a mask that completely covered that person's face. Throughout the night, the masked figure mingled with guests, but didn't speak. Everyone assumed it was just someone having fun, staying in character. No one really thought to question it. But later that night, after the party, a horrific event took place. When the authorities arrived, they discovered that the masked figure had not just been a friend or a neighbor. To make things worse, multiple guests had interacted with this person, some even taking photos, but the identity behind the mask wasn't anyone they knew. The case rattled LA because it showed just how easy it can be to blend in on Halloween night. It also became a prime example in criminology discussions about how costumes can complicate investigation. California's history. On Halloween night in 1963, more than 80 people gathered at a building in New York City for a holiday party. It was supposed to be a fun night of dancing and music, but just after midnight, the building caught fire. Investigators later discovered that the blaze spread quickly because the decorations inside the club were made from flammable materials. People inside tried to escape, but the exits were limited, and when firefighters arrived, it was already a catastrophe. This became one of the deadliest Halloween tragedies in U.S. history, and it led to new fire safety regulations for public spaces and events. On Halloween night in 2010, 55-year-old Christopher Jenkins went out to celebrate in Michigan. He was dressed in a costume and was last seen leaving a bar late that night. His friends assumed he went home, but the next day he was gone. A massive search followed. Weeks later, Christopher's body was found in a river nearby. Initially, authorities thought it might have been an accident, but after further investigation, the case became more complicated. Certain details didn't add up. Eventually, the cause of death was changed from accidental to suspicious. To this day, questions remain about what really happened that night. It became one of the most talked about Halloween disappearances of the 21st century, and it is often discussed in true crime communities. In 1981, a woman named Patricia was found inside her home after a violent attack in California. What stunned investigators wasn't just the crime itself, but what they discovered afterward. When detectives dug into her personal life, they uncovered a complicated web of hidden relationships and secrets. It turned out the incident on Halloween night wasn't random at all. The attacker had known her personally, and the truth of what happened exposed a private world she'd kept hidden from those closest to her. The case shocked everyone who thought they knew her. It showed how Halloween, with all the costumes and disguise, can sometimes reflect real-life secrets too. The incident has since been covered in multiple true crime documentaries and remains one of California's most infamous Halloween cases. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski. Have a very safe and fun Halloween and spooky season, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.